Welcome, you're watching Head to Head. I'm Antonina Antosha with UATV. Broadening horizons, educating Ukrainian youth and providing new opportunities for young Ukrainians in order to make the country better in the future. How and most importantly, why it's done. To answer these questions, we're joined in the studio today by Iryna Lysenko. She's the founder of the Center for Dialogue and Reconciliation, Iskra. Hello and thank you for coming.
Hello, Antonina. Thank you for having me.
So what does your center do? So what is the aim of your organization?
So we were founded in Mykolaiv in 2008 with the goal originally to help young people from Ukraine to go abroad as long-term volunteers. This was the original aim, so to say. So we are accredited as a sending organization.
You are an NGO, right?
We are an NGO,
okay.
Exactly. And we have official accreditation from the European Commission to consult and help young people to go abroad as long-term volunteers.
Long-term meaning year?
Usually 6 to 12 months.
Okay. In what spheres do our youth usually volunteer?
This can be basically anything in the social sphere. So we've had projects from working with disabled children in a home to organizing youth and sports events to teaching autistic children to ride ponies, anything of the sort. Also, it doesn't have to be let's say, emotional. It can also be some sort of back office in an NGO, in an organization where a person with logistical organizational talent can support a good cause.
So a young person, whoever contacts you, may actually choose where to go.
There is a database with hundreds of projects in many countries, and for Ukrainians, they can choose from 31 countries to go to.
31 countries?
Yes.
Wow.
This is the entire European Union. 28 countries, plus Norway, Turkey, and Iceland.
Oh, wow. Which country is the most popular one?
Poland and Germany.
Poland and Germany,
yes.
Okay. Why do you think is that? Poland, maybe because it's close?
I think because the languages are the kind of languages you can learn in Ukraine. So it's very beneficial. It's much easier to find a project if you can speak at least a little bit of the local language.
Yeah, is the local language obligatory?
It is not. But,
it is not,
But
okay.
honestly, the competition is high. So if you do speak at least a little bit, some level of the local language, you just have a better chance of
What are the
accepted.
requirements Ukrainian volunteers have to meet to actually qualify for the volunteer job outside of Ukraine?
They have to speak English on a spoken level, so something like A2 level, European language framework, lower intermediate, let's say. And they have to have volunteer experience or experience of volunteering in NGOs and civic organizations and any kind of social.
Age restrictions?
Yes, 17 to 30. So unfortunately, we have a lot of
I
people
don't qualify
over 30.
Anymore.
Yes, me neither. But I already did my EVS,
okay.
my European Voluntary Service. Yes, so you can apply when you're 17. You can leave. You can actually go to the country you chose once you're 18. And the latest you can go is when you're 30,
when you're 30.
Basically, before you turn 31.
Is it a one-time opportunity, or you can continue doing this after coming back?
Usually it is only a one-time thing, so you can do only one long-term service. There is one exception where you can do first a short-term service for 1 to 2 months, and then a long-term service of up to 12 months.
Does it have to be still the same country, though?
No, it does not. Actually, it is even supported that you choose 2 different countries.
Who pays for all that?
The European Commission.
All right. What about the accommodation?
So you get usually a room in an apartment with other volunteers. You get your food covered, you get pocket money, you get visa expenses covered, a ticket from your hometown to the host country, and you do not pay anything like a participation fee. So, for example, young people working with us, with Iskra, they do not pay anything to us for our help because we are supported by the European Commission as a sending organization.
What do you think the effect of the thing that your organization does is on the youth of Ukraine, overall, in general?
You know, when I myself returned from my voluntary service, it was in Luxembourg in 2007, I looked up the statistics for how many young people have been abroad from Ukraine at that point. And I was shocked at the percentage. It was under 1%. And half of those people have been to Russia. So my idea was that if we are, as young people of Ukraine, if we are asked to build a democratic country here, then how can we do this if we've never seen a democratic country
That's basically how
functioning?
you came up with the idea of creating the Iskra Foundation,
yes,
right?
basically, I did not have a sending organization. I had to look for one, and there was one that simply put their signature and stamp on my documents and said goodbye and sent me off. So I felt like young people need more support. So we got registered, we got accredited, and now we're sending volunteers since 2008, 2009, I think was
How
the
many
first
volunteers have you sent?
one. Over 200.
Over 200 since that time. Do you present your volunteers with a certificate or something so they just can have the actual proof of them being a volunteer abroad?
There is something called Youth Pass that they can get signed by their host organization and approved by the European Commission. It's a very interesting type of certificate because it's basically filled out by the volunteer themselves, where the volunteer says, what kind of things have I learned during my voluntary service? What kind of skills and what exactly, under each skill did I learn? And then the host organization certifies that and says, that's actually what you learned during the service.
Okay. Do you share the opinion that it's the young generation that is somewhat in this situation obliged to build a new democratic Ukraine?
Absolutely. I mean, we still have decades that we have to live in this country, and if the young people are not participating in building this country, the old generation will not make it without us. I think so, absolutely.
And do you think that the experience of going and doing volunteer work abroad is crucial at this point?
I believe so. Otherwise, I would not be doing this job. And I can tell you that from over 200 volunteers that we've sent abroad, only few people, cannot tell you the exact number, but maybe 10 stayed abroad. And the rest are usually coming back and usually trying to
change Ukraine for the better.
Exactly, to work here.
Perhaps any bright stories of a particular volunteer you could share with us?
There are so many. It's hard.
Okay, just pick one.
So, for example, we really send all kinds of people, and especially for us as an NGO, as a team, let's say, rural youth are a focus. So we always try to help people from small towns, even from villages in Ukraine, who might not have a great CV, but they have the potential, and they speak a little bit of English. And the desire and the motivation, to help them go abroad. And so, for example, I have a volunteer that we sent, I believe, 4 years ago. His name is Yuri Kazakov. He's from Brody, Lviv region. And he was, I hope he doesn't see me, but he was a poor boy from a small town. No money, no great CV, but so motivated. He called me, I think, 30 times just saying, I really want to do this.
Persuaded his dream.
Yes, and as much as I know, he's living in Indonesia now. He did his voluntary service in Turkey, and he learned English, and he got experience. He worked for several NGOs since then. He got a scholarship from the Indonesian government to study Bahasa Malaysia, the Indonesian language. He's doing good.
That is beautiful. So what does a young person need to do to actually come and join the Iskra Center?
I would say learn languages, start early.
Okay.
And point two, try to get experience already in Ukraine. If you come to me with a CV that says you've never worked as a volunteer, ever, you've always worked for money or never worked at all, then I have a problem with that, because I don't know if you're suitable for a year of voluntary service abroad, which is demanding, of course, and it's not paid. Yes, the expenses are covered, but you're not getting a big salary. So you have to be motivated to get through this, basically, and to get the best experience out of it. So so we like people who bring some experience of volunteering, working for NGOs in Ukraine already, and it can be the lowest level possible. It can be in your village. Anything, basically, exactly.
Okay. Any activities the center does in Ukraine?
Yes. So we are trying to specialize on topics of conflict management and reconciliation. This has a little bit to do with my personal profile, let's say, because I studied peace and conflict studies for a master's in Germany. And I work as a trainer in historical political education and doing trainings on conflict management.
So you basically educate young people on how to deal with conflicts? Or
yes, we teach conflict analysis. We try to put academic knowledge on conflict analysis into a digestible, understandable form and bring it over here in the form of trainings, workshops, short-term events.
What is the aim? To make the number of conflicts less? Or just to teach people how to behave in a conflict situation, the proper way?
I think so we're not talking about interpersonal conflicts. We're talking about interethnic, interreligious, international conflicts.
Okay,
that
this
kind.
is even more interesting then.
Yes.
This is even more
so
interesting.
I'm not a psychologist. I'm a social scientist who specializes actually on armed conflicts. And so we teach conflict analysis in terms of actor analysis. We can talk about the Russian-Ukrainian conflict. We can talk about other conflicts in the world.
What do you teach your students, your volunteers about the Russian-Ukrainian conflict? What exactly do you teach them?
I think you could say that we try to tell them that it's not unexpected what happened between Ukraine and Russia, and there's a long history.
There were signs before.
There were signs before, and it's from my point of view as a conflict scientist, the conflict started decades, if not centuries ago, and so we should not be all surprised, but we should see the big picture and analyze the conflict far behind, far back in time to understand what's happening now, what's going to happen next.
What's going to happen next?
I think Russia is interested in simply destabilizing Ukraine. I do not believe in the horror scenarios of Russia taking over Kiev or rolling in with big tanks. I do actually believe that beneficial for them would be to simply keep us unstable and without the perspective of joining Europe.
Okay. What well, the simplest question ever, what are your plans for the future with the center? Do you plan to enlarge the number of volunteers to, I don't know?
I think we're close to our limit in terms of the number of volunteers. What we plan to enlarge much more are the local projects. So we are sending...
Anything you're particularly looking forward to?
So, for example, we have a project running on the history of the Maidan Revolution, the last revolution of 2013-14, where we always try to do interdisciplinary projects where we combine people from different fields. So, for example, we have historians, artistic people, artists, and IT people working together on one project to create an audio installation with personal stories from people who supported the Maidan Revolution and also those who hated, who didn't support it, together in one project. It's going to be something that you can download on your phone as a mobile app and listen to it walking on the Maidan Square.
Wow.
So that's something we do, and that's something we want to continue doing, those kinds of projects.
Iryna, thank you so much for coming, and thank you for sharing your story with us.
Thank you for having me.
That was Iryna Lysenko. She's the founder of the Center for Dialogue and Reconciliation, Iskra. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.